So our main character Mujin is squaring off against this squad leader Chilbo, and he's totally toying with the guy. Like he even dodges an attack midair, which is insane. Chilbo gets super ticked and is all like, "Fight me for real, dude." So Mujin just drops down, scoops up his 100-kilo sword like it's a feather. They both charge, but Mujin fakes him out, yanks his sword back, and then bam! He smacks Chilbo's blade so hard it just ricochets away. Seizing the moment, he decks Chilbo right in the face like so hard his nose almost goes flat, sending him flying. Everyone else is just shook cause he was never this OP before. Okay, so to get why our dude can just wreck a squad leader, we gotta rewind. Our MC, who goes by the super cool name The Divine Demon, was this legendary swordsman taking on 9 crazy powerful sect leaders for some serious payback. His sword skills were legit insane, both awesome and terrifying, letting him go toe-to-toe with these bosses. He was slicing them up with such crazy precision, they had no clue what was even hitting them. Next thing they know, he's picking them off one by one, and they're all thinking, this guy's a total monster. Even when the ones left standing finally managed to pin him down and run a sword right through his heart, he somehow powered through and sent them all packing to the great beyond. That's what really sealed his rep as the Divine Demon. But just as he's about to fade out, his whole life flashes before his eyes, and he's actually relieved like mission accomplished. He remembers back when he was just a troublemaker in the Murim getting ganged up on by 3 other kids. His master ended up saving him and training him, but yeah, in the end he lived a rough life, taking people out left and right. He starts wondering if that's all his life was meant to be. And right then, he thinks about his wife who passed away. All the best times in his life were with her, but then they were ripped away from him. Crying, he starts questioning what the whole point of his life even was. And finally, he just closes his eyes and lets go. But then bam, he hears all this yelling around him. He figures he must be in hell until he cracks open his eyes and sees this super annoying crew just standing there talking mad trash about him. Our guy is completely lost with zero clue what's going on. Then he notices 2 kids standing right next to him, and the little dude is sticking up for his big bro, saying there's no way they're giving up the clan's martial arts while he's still breathing. He's like, no matter what, those secrets stay with their clan. The Hua clan. While our MC is still trying to figure out what's even real, the leader of the other guys proposes a deal to like solve all their problems. He calls out our MC, Hujin, and says he's willing to throw some cash their way since his clan is broke. In exchange, Mujin has to bet his clan's martial arts on a duel. Winner takes all. The little bro is totally floored by this cause his older brother, our MC, is apparently a complete noob at martial arts. Our guy is so over all the chatter and is basically forced to ask the group, who the heck is Mujin? Since he knows for a fact that's not him. His supposed little siblings are just baffled when he says this, staring at him like he's lost his mind. Even his rival has to be like, what did you just say? And he fires back that he's known as the Divine Demon. This just makes the guy laugh his head off and say Mujin should call him the king of the underworld then. Turns out this annoying rival is Chong Dobo, the second son of the Chonghua merchant group. Mujin's sibs are seriously ticked off, thinking his craziness is going way too far, which is why he's spouting all this nonsense. Even the head of the Chonghua merchant group, Buchun, starts dissing the clan, saying they're toast since their oldest son has clearly lost it. Mujin just stays quiet, trying to process what is actually happening. Since he's not talking, Dobo just assumes he's down for the duel and tells him that it's going down at the Bong Pavilion next month. Dobo makes sure to remind Mujin they made the deal under the martial arts code, so he can't back out, or there will be major consequences. Once that crew leaves, Mujin's supposed brother and sister are all over him, asking what his plan is now that he's been forced into a duel. The worst part? This version of Mujin has apparently never even held a sword. Mujin just busts out laughing when he hears that because hello swords are literally his entire life. He tries to tap into his inner energy, to get his aura flowing, but he realizes it's just gone. Like completely empty, not a single drop left. He starts to panic when he realizes this new body is super frail and weak too. His sister just breaks down crying, begging Mujin to snap out of it already. The little girl calls Mujin straight up trash and a total fool for letting that merchant group push him around. Her brother tells her off for dissing their own brother and tells her to apologize, but she's not having it. She actually blames Mujin for their parents' deaths and then just runs off crying. The little bro apologizes for his sister, saying she just gets carried away when she's mad. After that, he takes off too. Mujin is just completely baffled because he can't believe that even little kids hate his guts now and are calling him crazy. Mujin's head is spinning. The last thing he remembers is tearing through those sect leaders without a second thought. He really thought he was supposed to be resting in peace, but instead he's woken up in some stranger's body. He just collapses in frustration, wondering who those kids even were. And right at that moment, so this kind of weird dude who's his assistant sprints over to him all freaked out about why he's outside when he's so weak. He's all, I was so worried. But Mujin's just like, who are you? Cause he legit has no clue. The guy Masach is totally shocked and just figures Mujin's having another episode from, his madness. Since he's convinced Mujin's memory is completely wiped, he decides to give him the whole backstory. Apparently, Hua Mujin used to be this super talented, well-respected kid that a bunch of the big-shot Orthodox sects were dying to recruit. And by the time he was 23, he was already running the whole clan. Sak is so overtelling this story because he's had to repeat it over 6,000 times. Mujin's not buying that he was some prodigy because his energy core is totally fried. Plus, he's curious about this madness thing everyone keeps mentioning. So Sak decides to spill the tea on that too. 17 years back, Mujin and this kid Dobo had an off-the-books duel and promised not to use any inner energy. Mujin was only 6, and Dobo was 9 when this went down. Dobo agreed to the terms and the two kids started throwing hands. But as the fight got more intense, Dobo totally broke their promise and hit Mujin with a punch juiced up with inner energy. Mujin is so bummed about it and asks Dobo why he pulled out the 7-wound fist technique when they straight up promised not to do anything but brawl. Dobo just clowns on Mujin, saying the move was passed down from the Kongdong sect and bragging that its side effects are seriously no joke. Turns out Dobo already tried it on his older brother, who was getting a little too full of himself, and it left the guy totally laid up. Since he was hyped about how that went, Dobo was pumped to see what it would do to Mujin. So yeah, that's why everyone calls Mujin a madman. Now they all think he's messed up from the after effects of that 7-wound fist hit. Mujin is so ticked off that Dobo was the one who wrecked him, and now the guy has the nerve to ask for a duel. So Mujin asks Sak what happened to Dobo after he basically broke him. Sak says that Mujin's own dad was the one who made the final call. Even though Dobo was his cousin, he was also the son of the Hua merchant group, which is like one of the top 10 groups in the Central Plains. So even though Dobo did something super messed up, Mujin's dad just let him off with a slap on the wrist. Mujin can't believe how weak his dad was, forgiving the guy who completely ruined his own son. Mujin's just like, wow, this clan is actual garbage. And then asks Sak where his parents are now. Sak explains that Mujin's condition just kept getting worse, which drove his dad deep into debt because he was desperate to find a cure for him. Then 9 years ago, his mom got super sick and ended up passing away. 3 years after that, his dad went to join her. So basically, everyone blamed Mujin for his parents' deaths and for dragging the clan through the mud. Because of all that, the clan's rep was totally wrecked, and his siblings got stuck in a really tough situation. All the family has left now is a mountain of debt, 2 loyal followers, and like a handful of martial artists. He's also got his younger bro Hua Jin and his sister Hua Soyeon. It finally clicks for Mujin why his sister Soyeon blamed him for what went down with their parents. That night, Mujin dives into the old history books that the body's original owner left behind, and he starts to piece some stuff together. He figures out it's been 30 years since he took down the 9 sects, and now he's stuck in the body of some so-called madman with a busted energy core. Since our guy has 0 regrets about his past life, he decides he's just gonna live by his own code and look out for these poor kids. But he knows that the Hua merchant group is gonna be a major headache for him. They were pretty much the ones who wrecked this body and destroyed the clan in the first place. First thing on his to-do list is to prep for the duel with Dobo, which is happening next month. Since this body is a total wreck, he realizes he's gotta rebuild it from scratch. He sits down to meditate and starts over from square one just like a total noob. He remembers that back in his past life, trying to cultivate for the first time was a major struggle. But with this new body, everything's going surprisingly smooth, all thanks to its insane natural talent for martial arts. Mujin starts tapping into the body's crazy power, pushing it to the limit and making this golden light just blast through his room. A second later, Sak and the retainers hear him screaming and struggling from outside. So they all come running into his room. They find him collapsed on the floor, and one of the guys jokes that he's a goner. But then he checks Mujin's pulse and realizes it's way stronger than before. But then Mujin just grabs the guy, demanding to know why his body is in like an insane amount of pain, just from trying to build an energy core. The retainer's totally confused, so Mujin asks again, saying he needs to know if this body has some kind of special build or something. The retainer then drops a bomb. His constitution is the heavenly martial body. Apparently, it's this super rare, heroic type of body that's literally chosen by the heavens. Just then, another wave of pain hits Mujin, and it finally clicks that this body's makeup is the polar opposite of the demonic arts. Basically, a body that's pure righteous energy will feel insane pain if it tries to use demonic arts. Mujin's screaming in agony like, why did I get stuck with a body cursed to be the complete opposite of what I need? He realizes he's in a seriously bad spot, because that duel is only a month away. As he's just lying there hurting, he asks Sak who the other 2 dudes are. Sak spills the tea that the guy in green is the chief steward Dakshin, and the dude in red is an elder Zhou Huan Bong. The second he hears the name Zhou, it totally triggers a memory from his past life. But the pain is just way too intense, and he totally blacks out. 3 days later, Mujin finally drags himself up, but Sak is freaking out that he's not resting enough. Mujin's like he's so overlying around since he's got a duel coming up, and he tells Sak to get him some swords. Sak literally has to stop himself from cracking up when he hears this because the clan is barely scraping by for food, and here's Mujin asking for swords. Mujin has to ask if the family is like broke, and Sak admits they're taking out loans from this sketchy group called the Bangho sect. And because the sect charges insane interest rates, they've ended up in a crazy amount of debt. It finally hits Mujin that to help the clan, he's got to fix the money problem first. Still, Mujin figures what's one more loan when they're already drowning in debt. Sak is super worried about this. But Mujin tells him to zip it and write a letter to the 2 elders, cause he's going for a walk. When the elders heard about it, they totally panicked that Mujin had gone to the super dangerous Bangho sect. A little later, Mujin and Sak show up at the entrance to the Bangho sect. Mujin tells the huge bodyguard to let his boss know he wants to see him. This dude Kong is not playing around, and he tells Mujin to get inside if he's there to gamble. Mujin keeps insisting that Kong take him to his boss, but this just starts to tick Kong off. Sok quickly jumps in, telling Kong to chill because Mujin's not all there in the head. The vibe gets super tense until the vice master of the sect, Jungbo, shows up asking what the big deal is. Kong then tells his boss that Mujin is trying to meet the top dog. Ma asks him why he wants to see their boss, and Mujin just says he wants more loans. Ma then tells Mujin he doesn't need to see the leader for a loan, and invites him into the building. Next thing they know, Mujin and Sok are heading deeper into the manor over a wooden bridge while they're being escorted by a bunch of armed swordsmen. Sok is getting really bad vibes and tells Mujin they can still bail before it's too late. Mujin's not having it, saying they've already come this far. Sok then tells him about some granny who saw the sect's leader fighting, and it turns out the guy is seriously powerful, because he totally crushed his opponent in seconds. Apparently the leader is a martial artist who knows some seriously deadly techniques. Mujin is questioning why Sok is even telling him this, when Ma cuts in saying Sok is smarter than he looks for catching on so fast. But it's already way too late for them because they've reached a deep part of the cave, and before the two even realize it, they find themselves completely surrounded by armed swordsmen. Mujin is so not impressed, and asks Ma if this was his plan all along. Ma confirms it and says he purposely let him in here because he obviously couldn't touch him in public. But he's not about to give him a free pass like he gave his parents. Sok isn't trying to argue with the crew, but he's begging them to let his master live. Mujin, on the other hand, is ticked off when Ma brings up his parents, because he doesn't have any until it suddenly clicks that he's in a whole new body now. Since everything's set, Ma orders his guys to teach Mujin a lesson. One of them, who's way too eager for this, goes after Mujin and throws a punch at him. Sok just about faints, in fear when he sees the punch flying right at them. Shockingly, Mujin blocks the dude's punch, basically shattering his bones from the inside out. The guy screams in pain, and collapses crying that Mujin used some kind of cheap trick on him. Mujin just roasts him, saying his bones are pretty soft for a guy his size. Mujin figures out that he has to do this without using his raw power. Ma is annoyed that his guys are wasting time, and orders them to just finish Mujin off. One of the swordsmen charges straight at him with his sword, but Mujin easily dodges the attack, and realizes he has to keep moving since he can't match the guy's strength. Using his insane agility, he's able to dodge and then slam him with a headbutt that just smashes the dude's face. The guy stumbles back screaming while his buddy takes over and tries to slash Mujin, but Mujin dodges the swing. The attacker goes for another strike, but Mujin jumps back before landing a kick that totally takes the dude out of the fight. Before the armed guys know what hit them, they're just getting played with, and in no time, they all collapse to their knees. Standing off to the side, Sok yells out to make sure his master is okay, but Mujin just calls him a blockhead and says he's fine. Sok is completely blown away, making him ask Mujin where he learned the fighting skills he's using. Mujin then tells the guy that what he's seeing isn't martial arts, but just some stuff he picked up on the streets. Sok is totally shocked to hear this, since he has no memory of Mujin ever hanging out on the streets. Ma compliments him for taking down his men, but then immediately flicks a coin at Mujin with some crazy force behind it. The coin zips right past Mujin's head, but he can feel the intense pressure from it, which is seriously shocking. Ma totally loses it and tells his crew to bounce, saying he's gonna handle Mujin personally. Mujin's like, whoa, what's with all the hate? He just wanted to chat with their boss, but Ma snaps back that his boss isn't someone that a nobody like Mujin gets to meet. Ma furiously whips out his sword and lunges at Mujin, ready to throw down. But plot twist, Mujin blocks the massive strike with a pair of chopsticks. Ma is completely shook when he sees this, but little does he know chopsticks were literally all Mujin could get his hands on since he's broke and can't afford a sword. Mujin and Ma keep trading blows, but Mujin is totally holding his own with some sick martial arts skills. Before Ma even knows what's happening, one of those chopsticks is sticking right through his hand. Ma can't believe Mujin found an opening, even though he was going all out to take him down. While Ma is freaking out, Mujin's just having a blast, telling Ma he's seriously going to regret underestimating a pair of chopsticks. Next thing he knows, Ma is getting owned by chopsticks, which blows his mind because he was so sure Mujin was just some weakling who couldn't even use chi. Ma is left wondering how Mujin got to this insane level of power so fast, but he just refuses to believe this is the same guy he knew. Mujin just keeps poking him with the chopsticks, all while telling him his skills are straight up trash. Ma refuses to get beaten by chopsticks, so he leaps into the air, aiming to end Mujin with his ultimate move. Even though he looks super threatening, Mujin doesn't look scared one bit. He easily sidesteps Ma's attack, leaving the guy completely defenseless. Ma is left wondering how Mujin was hiding this kind of power from him. Mujin lands a heavy punch right to his gut that completely shatters whatever pride he had left. With pure fear now coursing through Ma's body, Mujin repeats himself, saying all he wants is to talk. But this time he says it with a look that's absolutely deadly. A few moments later, after getting thoroughly wrecked, Ma finally agrees to sit down with Mujin. His own guards are now bowing to Mujin while Ma talks with him. Ma then asks Mujin to just spit it out and tell him what he wants. Mujin asks Ma why his sect is giving his family a loan without any collateral, because he can tell the whole deal is super shady. Ma tries to play it off, saying they have good intentions, and Mujin is just overthinking it. Mujin isn't buying it for a second because he can feel Ma's fear from across the table. So Mujin asks him again, but this time he tells him to choose his next words carefully if he doesn't want to get hurt. Realizing Mujin is 100% serious, Ma finally spills that they got their orders from the Chongqa merchant group. Mujin isn't even surprised. He knew that group had to be involved. He then asks Ma what kind of deal they made with the Chongqa group. Ma is hesitant to talk, but Mujin quickly reminds him that if he dies protecting the merchant group, no one's gonna miss him. Ma gets the hint and reveals that the merchant group told them to loan Mujin's clan as much money as they wanted, but with a ridiculously high interest rate. In exchange for making the Hua clan go down, the Bangho sect would get all the Hua lands after they were knocked out of the game. It finally clicks for Mujin that the family land was the collateral all along. Mujin then asks Ma how much the 300 gold coins he wants to borrow would cost him in a year. Ma looks at the contract and says that the 300 gold coins would turn into 5,000 gold coins in repayment. Mujin is disgusted, but honestly he doesn't really care and just accepts the deal. With a dead serious look, he asks Ma who helps them clean up their dirty work. Ma then mentions that one of them is the social sect of the Four Martial Heavens, an alliance of some pretty sketchy sects. Mujin is shocked to hear this, and Sok points out that it's a new alliance. Mujin is so over the Four Martial Heavens and even calls them a bunch of jokers. Sok is convinced his master's gone crazy because he's never seen him even meet the alliance yet. Here he is totally bad-mouthing them. Mujin just tells Sok not to worry about it because he's not in the mood to explain. Mujin is already sick of waiting, so he asks about the guy who went to get the money. The guy shows up a second later with a box full of the 300 gold coins he needs. Mujin's eyes totally light up when he sees the cash figuring. It should be enough. He tells Sok it's time to go, but Sok is still giving the whole loan situation major side-eye. Mujin just tells him to zip it and grab the money so they can dip. As they're leaving, Ma and his guards walk Mujin to the entrance. Mujin tells him to mark the date in his ledger and promises to pay off all the clan's debts as soon as he's done with the Chongqa merchant group. Mujin also warns Ma to stop scamming the regular folks. If he doesn't listen, it's going to end badly for him. Ma agrees, but deep down he's totally ticked off and can't wait to see Mujin's plan blow up in his face. A little later, Sok and Mujin get back to the house and are greeted by the two elders. They immediately start to worry when they spot blood on Mujin's clothes, but he tells them to chill, promising it's not his. They ask him what went down at the sect, and he tells them he just went to borrow some cash. Mujin says the clan desperately needs money to feed their warriors, so the few guys they have left don't just take off. So the elders are totally bugging, thinking Mujin jacked the cash instead of believing the sect loaned it to him. But Mujin's like, nah, check the receipts, cause the sect has it all in their ledger. At least that's the story he's giving them. Mujin then tells the old guys all he needs is for them to look after his little bro and sis, make sure they've got food and decent clothes. After dropping those orders, he just hits him with a good luck with that and bounces. Next, Mujin swings by his parents' memorial, but it's super awkward because he didn't have parents in his last life, so he's like totally clueless on what to say. He finally says something, letting them know the money drama is handled and promising to look out for his siblings and the staff. Basically, he's telling his parents they can chill out in the afterlife now. He also lets them know he's about to absolutely wreck Dobo for even thinking about challenging him. Little does he know, Soon and Dojin are spying on him, and they look seriously impressed. A little later, Mujin orders up 3 swords weighing 50-80 and a whopping 110 kilograms respectively. The servants who had to carry them in nearly threw their backs out, but Mujin is just stoked that his new toys finally showed up. Sok has to ask what in the world he's going to do with such ridiculously heavy swords, and Mujin just grins, saying he's going to do what anyone does with a sword, which is swing it. Mujin gets all hyped and grabs for the 50-kilogram sword to start things off, but his smile totally vanishes when he realizes he can't even lift the thing. He's like, wow, this body is straight up garbage. But he's not about to give up that easy. Still, he figures out he can kinda lift it if he uses both hands. Mujin totally catches Sok staring at him with this grossed out look, so he tells him to go get his food ready. He makes sure to tell him to pile on the meat, and Sok just shuffles off looking super worried. Mujin just sits there with the sword, feeling the pressure, cause he's only got 2 weeks to train like a madman before the duel. His body's whole deal, this heavenly martial body, is the complete opposite of the dark arts his old master taught him. He realizes his only shot is to learn his master's friend's style, the Peerless 9 swords. Not one to quit, he just starts muscling the sword around inside the house. Meanwhile, Dobo gets word that Mujin messed up the Bungo boys so bad they'll be out of commission for 2 weeks. Dobo's kinda shocked to hear it since Mujin doesn't even have an energy core to pull off something like that. Dobo gets this evil grin, already plotting something nasty for the fight. He's also kinda pumped to see what secrets Mujin is hiding when they finally face off. Back with Mujin, he starts training his body in the most brutal way he can. He figures he should be able to push this body to its absolute limit cause it's supposed to be blessed by the heavens or whatever. All through his training, Sok is always there getting him whatever he needs. He thinks with all this prep he can finally go all in on his training. He grabs the 50-kilo sword and starts swinging it, remembering his old master's words. After nailing the first form, Mujin immediately levels up to the second one. He remembers his master telling him that no matter what weapon comes at him, he'll always win. As he keeps training, he realizes he's already starting to get wrecked. But he knows he's just gotta power through it. Before he knows it, he's handling the sword like it's nothing, even jumping around the room like it's light as a feather. In a flash, he's onto the third form trying to get his QI under control to max out his power. To help him train, he's got a whole bunch of gear already, set up to feel like the real fight. First up is this hardball that he dodges for a bit before it smacks him from behind. After that, he goes up against some spiked bamboo, and using the fourth form of the sword, he slices right through them. Turns out his sword moves might look basic, but they're super dangerous and can cut through pretty much anything. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't hit these flying logs with his fourth form, so he had to level up to the fifth. This time, he totally shreds them all with his awesome fifth form. With his sword this powerful, he's feeling unstoppable, like it doesn't matter how many enemies there are. After the logs, he's up against candles stuck in bamboo. And for this challenge, he busts out his sixth form. He swung his sword so fast, the wind from it blew out all the candles at the same time. Once he beats that, he figures the next step is to take it outside so he can use his seventh form. He crushes it again with his powerful seventh form. Like super fast, he makes it to the ninth form, totally convinced there's nothing his sword can't slice through. He finally hits the max level with the sword, and Mujin just collapses on the ground, so relieved. But at the same time, he's kinda bummed he can't pull off the ultimate move from his past life. He starts thinking back to lessons from his master when he was a kid. Back then, he totally didn't take his master's lessons seriously. He thought his master's friend was just messing with him, saying all this impossible trash talk stuff about cutting through anything with a sword. His master even admits it sounds wild, but he refuses to let his friend's fighting style just fade away. Since he couldn't really master it himself, he wants Mujin to carry the torch for him. His master told him his friend who passed away was literally the only swordsman who could ever match his own skills. So get this, the guy had zero chi, which is wild, but Mujin's master was like he was probably using movement arts. Apparently nobody in his sect could even get the hang of it. So he decided to teach Mujin's master, hoping to pass it on to someone who was actually worthy. After hearing that, Mujin just bursts out laughing, totally dissing the arts, but his master flicks him so hard on the head it almost cracks his skull. He tells Mujin he has to follow every single order he gives, and Mujin doesn't really have a choice but to go along with it. His master told him that if he practiced the sword art 1,000 times, his body would literally change. But if he did it 100,000 times, his chi would start flowing into his sword. Basically, swinging it 1,000,000 times would make him unbeatable even against the most OP swordsman. Mujin was totally floored by this because it would take him 3 years to finish if he swung his sword 1,000 times a day. This made Mujin ask his master if his friend was really on his level, but he's like, no idea. But he's pretty sure one of them would have been toast if they'd gone all out. Because of this, Mujin got super curious about what kind of guy his master's friend was. Back in the present, Mujin finally wakes up to SHOCKS slapping him around. Mujin figures he has a seriously long way to go, cause he fainted after trying the move just one time, and that's nowhere close to 1,000. Anyway, he needs to eat since it's already super late. And when he looks at the food in front of him, he realizes it's pork. He's so disappointed and tells SHOCKS to get beef next time since it's the best way to bulk up. He lets SHOCKS know he can totally use the money that they borrowed from the Bangho sect, cause he can just get more later, no problem. He tells SHOCKS his plan is to eat nothing but beef the entire time he's prepping to fight Dobo. SHOCKS then asks Mujin when he learned all those martial arts moves, because he's 100% sure Mujin didn't know any of that stuff before. Since Mujin already told his siblings, he figures that telling SHOCKS probably isn't a bad idea either. Mujin then drops the bomb that he's not the real Mujin, cause his real identity is the divine demon. SHOCKS just assumes Mujin's joking and spewing some fantasy nonsense. SHOCKS says he's just worried Mujin is gonna lose his memories and just like poof disappear one day. But Mujin grabs him, promising that he's not ditching the clan until it becomes the top clan in all of Sichuan. I mean, it's not like Mujin has a choice since he has nothing else going on. SHOCKS teases his master saying he's talking crazy, but it just gets him a painful finger flick to the head. Once they're done talking, Mujin tells SHOCKS he can take off, so SHOCKS does. Meanwhile, the two clan elders are trying to bail with the kids before the duel since they're convinced Dobo is going to totally wreck Mujin, leaving the clan up for grabs. A little while later, Mujin has trained his butt off and can now lift the 70-kilo sword with just one arm. Thing is, his technique is still super unstable, and he only has a week until the duel. He's sweating buckets in the training room when the kids come in to check on him. Mujin tells them to get out of there cause it's dangerous. The kids tell Mujin they're just worried about him since they've been watching him push himself past his limits for days. Soon is worried that Mujin's doing all this because of what she said, but she tells him she didn't mean it at all, and was just mad. Staring at the two kids, reminds our guy of his lover's siblings from his past life. Mujin pats them on the head, telling them they have nothing to worry about. The two kids start trying to copy Mujin, arguing over how awesome his posture was. The way they argue about who's right and who's wrong makes him remember how tough it was when he trained with his master. Suddenly, it clicks for him that the most important part of the Peerless Nine sword is the breathing technique. Realizing this, Mujin tells the kids he's going to win no matter what, and tells them to go back to their room. The kids are worried, but they just assume things are going to be fine. Once he's alone, Mujin starts the breathing technique while swinging his sword like a maniac. With the help of the breathing technique, he's able to unleash all his collected internal energy at once. Before he even knows it, he's got the hang of the movement arts, which is a type of chi art, where you build up internal energy just through movement. Basically, movement arts are considered a low-key martial art, which is why most people don't take them seriously. Using the breathing technique, Mujin can swing the sword way easier, giving him the power to slice a statue in half. Meanwhile, Johan Bong is seen talking to Sok about Mujin's crazy transformation. Sok tries to blame Mujin's sudden good health on that one Wong session he did, but Johan isn't an idiot. He tells Sok to make sure he reports any other changes he sees. Sok makes his way to where his master is training only to find the place is a total wreck. He tries to tell him his food's ready, but Mujin is bummed, saying the training room is way too small for him to train in. Because of this, Mujin says he's gonna start using the main training hall. He heads over to the big training hall only to find a bunch of other warriors training there, and every single one of them is staring at him. Sok tells the other warriors that his master needs to train alone, and suggests they all get out of there. He tells them to go use the other training hall, but the warriors are just left standing there, wondering why this beat-up dude is suddenly barking orders at them. They're like, just cause he's holding a sword doesn't make him some master. Mujin totally clocks their vibe shift, and he calls them out on it. The other fighters are ready to throw down with Mujin, but their leader Chaboon tells his crew to bounce and give the young master some space. Chiel is 100% convinced that Mujin has officially lost his marbles again. But then Mujin stops Chiel in his tracks, telling him to man up and say it to his face. So Chiel turns around and Mujin's like, "We're swordsmen, let's just fight it out." Chiel's all, "Nah, I can't do that, you're the future clan leader." So Mujin calls him out, telling him to stay a coward and get lost since he can't even back up his talk. That's all it takes for Chiel to whip out his sword, totally ready to go at it with Mujin. The fight is on, and Mujin immediately jams his sword into the dirt before making a wild leap at Chiel. He gets right up in Chiel's face and shoves his head before the guy can even blink. The other fighters are just standing there legit confused, cause they've never seen anyone duel without a sword. Mujin keeps messing with Chiel, zipping around super fast, while Chiel is seriously struggling to keep up. Chiel gets super ticked off and yells at Mujin to fight for real and stop dodging. Mujin finally decides to get a little serious and grabs his sword, but Chiel immediately starts trash-talking, blaming Mujin for all the clan's problems. Since Mujin is the one who caused all this drama, Chiel thinks he has no right to even practice martial arts. Chiel lunges at Mujin, but Mujin meets him with the 9th form of his insane sword style, totally messing up his whole flow. Mujin gives Chiel zero room to breathe, landing a brutal punch right to his face. Chiel goes down hard with blood flying everywhere. And Mujin's just like, "Get ready, cause things are changing." As he's hitting the floor, Chiel finally gets at the harsh truth that Mujin is a completely different person now. He can feel the intense drive radiating off Mujin's body. Chiel smacks the ground, something he never used to do, totally shocking Sok and the other guys watching. The warriors rush over to check on their boss, who's just laid out, completely knocked out. Mujin stands there like a total champ and asks Chiel if he's got a problem with him winning. One of the fighters starts yelling at Mujin, saying he pulled a cheap shot. Chiel struggles up and yells at the guy to shut it, admitting that he totally lost fair and square. Chiel gives Mujin a nod of respect, saying he actually learned something from him. Mujin accepts it and tells him he can go. As the warriors are heading out, Mujin tells Sok to go with them, cause he really just wants to be alone. The salty warrior keeps whining, convinced Chiel let Mujin win, but Chiel sets him straight, telling him he was actually trying to mess Mujin up for real. The guy's not buying it, but Chiel tells him he's being 100% serious. Chiel's like, "I don't know what happened, but it's obvious our young master has leveled up like big time." Meanwhile, Sok is also tripping about when Mujin got so good, but low-key he's super glad it happened. Later that night, the two elders have a secret meeting about the big duel. These two have been with the clan for over 36 years and have always been loyal. They start reminiscing about how epic the Flame Emperor was back in the day. He was this seriously skilled dude who was so next level at martial arts that even the crazy powerful Tang clan had to admit he was legit special. Basically, the elders were completely blown away by his power and both pledged to follow him forever. Joe thinks they're about to break that promise, but Du's like, "Nah, we just gotta fix this whole bloodline issue." Du says they've been taking care of Mujin for 17 years, and the clan's been going downhill the whole time. They both feel like they've done their part, and there's no way the Flame Emperor is gonna call them out for it in the afterlife. The gist is they've scraped together the cash to dip, and on top of that, they've got a few fighters to back them up. Then Du tells Joe that he should take off first while he hangs back to watch over Mujin a little longer. Turns out the martial arts master from the Kongdong sect who was hired by the Chongka is gonna be the ref for the duel. Joe is shook when he hears this, cause it totally sounds like the whole thing is rigged. That merchant group is basically a bunch of shady villains who'll do anything to see the Hua clan get wrecked. Du tells Joe to grab the kids and wait for him at their secret spot, even though the kids are gonna freak out. A bit later, Mujin notices his beef portions are getting kinda small, so he asks Sok what is up with that. Sok spills that the steward is being super stingy with the cash, and even though Mujin is fuming about it, he puts it on hold to show Sok his slick new outfit. But Sok totally kills his vibe, telling him he honestly looked cooler all wrapped up in bandages. When it's finally time to head to the duel, Mujin bumps into Du right outside. At first, Mujin thinks he's there to try and stop him, but Du's like, "Nah," and says he's actually coming with him. Mujin realizes Du is just stressing for no reason when his whole plan is to just destroy his opponent. So Sok and Du tag along with Mujin on the way to the fight. The arena is totally packed with a huge crowd, some there for the show, and others just trying to place some bets, since the odds were stacked for Mujin like everyone was betting on him. But then he rolls up to the arena with a lollipop in his mouth, and legit everyone who saw him was sure he was a total pushover. They were even trying to cancel their bets. When he steps into the ring, he meets Xian, who's like, "Are you for real? You actually want to go through with this?" The crowd hears this and thinks that Mujin was the one who started this whole duel, even though he looks so weak, and they're all whispering that he's completely lost it. Mujin gets seriously ticked off when he realizes the group is already making him out to be the bad guy, and he's planning to make them pay for it. Mujin tells Qian straight up that he's not going to just sit back and let her crew steal his clan's secret manual, which is exactly why he has to fight them. The crowd is totally shook to hear this, because they never imagined a merchant group would try to snatch a secret martial arts technique. Qian is acting all confident though, loving how things are playing out, and she's sure Mujin is going to get wrecked for trying to act all cool. The stage is set and everything's ready for the showdown. The host announces that the duel's witness will be Han Yang of the Kongdong sect. Han is just standing on the balcony looking super cool and intense, ready to enforce his master's wishes. He tells Dobo and Mujin to fight a clean fight for everyone watching. Right then, Dobo drops a total bombshell telling Mujin that the fighting gear he's wearing was a personal gift from him to celebrate Mujin's return. Mujin just cracks a smile when he hears this, then whips out this giant sword telling Dobo he'll have no choice but to return the rest of the goods after the duel. The entire crowd is stunned to see this because they've never seen anyone fight a duel with a sword that massive. On top of that, everyone thought the Flame Emperor was known for fighting with his bare hands. Even Do is freaking out and he asks Sok if Mujin said anything weird. I mean, the two of them basically told Mujin to bounce because they thought he had zero chance of beating his opponent. But now Sok is starting to actually believe in Mujin, saying he might have a chance. Do's vibe, though, is completely different. Once both sides are ready, the referee hits the bell to get the show on the road. Totally enraged, Mujin goes right after Dobo from the jump. He swings his huge sword at him, unleashing a crazy, powerful, and destructive attack. Dobo barely dodges the hit, but it completely shatters the ground where it lands. The spectators are blown away because they never expected Mujin to be that fast and ridiculously strong. What everyone believed was that Mujin had no fighting skills, but he was moving in this totally insane way. Even Dobo is completely shocked since he was expecting this duel to be a cakewalk. Mujin keeps up the attack as he charges toward Dobo one more time. He keeps swinging his sword at him, but Dobo manages to block the hit and they're locked in a face-off. It makes this epic clashing sound and is an awesome sight to see. Qian is surprised that Mujin is actually lasting in the fight way longer than she gave him credit for. But she's still convinced that no matter what training he's done, he's not even in the same league as Dobo. Mujin keeps swinging his big sword at Dobo, but Dobo easily sidesteps it because he's so flexible. As the fight goes on, Dobo manages to land a counterattack that sends Mujin flying backward, and he swears he's going to leave Mujin in way worse shape than before. He's so sure he has what it takes to completely break someone's spirit. Standing up on the balcony, Do admits that he's impressed by how Mujin is holding his own in the fight. Sok then tells Do that from what he's seeing, Mujin hasn't even played his trump card yet. Do thinks Sok is talking total trash, but Sok says that he secretly watched Mujin train by himself, and he promises Do that something way more powerful is coming. As the fight heats up, Mujin figures out that his strength is basically on the same level as Dobo's, which makes him second-guess the training. But he's not stressing because no matter how strong his opponent is, he knows he'll always win, and this time he's planning to take Dobo out for good. Meanwhile, Joe is driving Mujin's siblings, and he's just arrived at their destination while they're sleeping. He remembers Do telling him that the reason he wasn't coming yet was because he wanted to hang around and pick up whatever was left of Mujin after Dobo finished him. Even though Joe has no idea if what they're doing is right, at least they've already started. Back in the arena, the two are still going at it hard. Mujin isn't worried because he thinks Dobo is nothing but a total newbie to him. The two keep trading blows, and even though it looks like they're evenly matched, some people think Mujin actually has the advantage. People have started talking smack about Mujin, saying he's not that big of a deal. Just then, Dobo unleashes a super powerful attack that he aims right at Mujin. Do and Sok almost pass out as they watch the attack heading straight for Mujin, and all they can do is pray he actually dodges it. Realizing that Dobo is getting serious, Mujin uses the Peerless Nine Swords first form, the preemptive step. Dobo lands his hit, but thanks to the technique Mujin used, he's able to block it, leaving the crowd in total shock. Even Dobo is stunned, and he's forced to jump back. Seeing that Mujin is going wild, Dobo starts gathering his inner energy to get ready for a final strike. But Mujin just makes fun of him, saying his energy gathering is way too slow. Mujin then activates his technique's second form and dashes toward Dobo, looking absolutely vicious. Dobo can feel it, and all he can do is struggle to block Mujin's attack, leaving him totally shook, like he can't even process that he's losing to Mujin. Do puts everything he's got into blocking Mujin's move, but before he can even blink, his sword just explodes right in his face. Mujin's blade slices right through, hitting Dobo hard. Do gets slammed to the ground, and Qian is just screaming Dobo's name, totally freaking out. Dobo's just lying there in a puddle of his own life juice, and his right arm is gone. So yeah, Mujin wins. Then Mujin strolls over to the arm and is like, I'll be taking this as payback for the last 17 years of beef. Xian is like completely floored by this, and Mujin's all, maybe your merchant buddies can figure out how to stick it back on. Han just vaults down from the stands to check on Dobo. Xian sprints over to them too, and Han says Dobo's energy core is totally wrecked. Han just glares at Mujin, asking him if he really had to take it that far. Mujin plays dumb, asking Han what he's even talking about. Han's like, dude, you were way stronger. This fight was over ages ago. Mujin claps back saying since Han's got such a big mouth, he's got a few things to say too. Mujin then asks if it was really necessary to use the 7-wound fist strike on a 5-year-old kid with 0 martial arts skills. With straight-up fury in his eyes, Mujin tells Han this was just him settling a score he's been holding onto for 17 long years. He also adds that they're about to get the bill for everything they did to the Hua clan. With a totally evil vibe, he tells Han and his crew to get ready. Chun just collapses to her knees, completely wrecked, swearing she'll never forget what Mujin just did. As Mujin walks off stage, the crowd goes wild cheering for him, cause they're blown away by how he just demolished Dobo. On top of the insane moves they just saw, they realized they'd never seen that sword he used before. Basically, everyone is super hyped because a new martial arts legend was just born. Du and Sok run up to meet Mujin and he tells them it's time to bounce, but as he's leaving, he whips around and asks Du if he spent all the gold he gave him. Du gets all nervous and is like, there's still a little bit left. Mujin's like, cool, I might have to swing by the Bangho sect to borrow some cash. Then out of nowhere, he tells Du that he doesn't care if he, Joe, and the other fighters want to dip, but warns him that things will get real ugly if they try to take his siblings. He says it with this intense, deadly vibe that almost makes Du freeze up on the spot. Meanwhile, his little siblings are totally yelling at Joe for dragging them away when they were supposed to be watching their brothers fight. Joe knows they are so screwed. When he reads the note from the carrier pigeon and finds out Mujin actually won, Du told him in the letter that they've been found out and to get back to the house like right now. Not wasting a second, Joe starts booking it back home totally scared, while the kids are cheering because they get to go back and see their brother. A little later, Mujin tells Du it's time to handle the Bangho sect and tells him not to sweat it. Even though Mujin's a beast now, Du begs him not to get mixed up with the social sect at all. Realizing the old guy is just stressing, Mujin promises he won't. And with that, Mujin heads off to see the Bangho sect, but Sok is worried things are about to get messy. Mujin's like, I can't put this off anymore, and tells Sok to stick right behind him. A few moments later, Mujin rolls up to the Bangho sect, which totally shocks Ma, who thought he'd never see Mujin again. Mujin tells Ma he's there to settle his debts, and throws some shade about how their sect looks totally empty now. Ma tries to play it off, saying all the gamblers just left to watch his fight with Dobo. Mujin's like, oh, so everyone went to see me fight. Did you guys run a betting pool on my match? No doubt about it. Mujin's positive they gave him the long shot odds, which means they must have made a boatload of cash. And since they've made some bank, Mujin makes it clear he wants a piece of the action, and Ma totally knows he's about to get squeezed for cash. Trying to avoid any drama, Ma tells him they're gonna show their appreciation. Mujin is stoked to hear that, cause who doesn't love money? Ma can feel this icy aura coming off Mujin, and it's clear the guy is radiating some serious deadly vibes. So Mujin asks Ma about his boss, which freaks Ma out, who's like, why do you want to know where our boss is? Mujin slams his hand on the table, telling Ma he gets pissed when he has to repeat himself. Mujin's about to go off when the sect leader Cheongyel shows up. Mujin's kinda surprised to see this not-so-good-looking dude is actually the one in charge. Che admits his guys have already told him all about Mujin, and Mujin's like, why are you so hard to get a meeting with? Mujin doesn't pull any punches, straight up telling him he's got a busted face. Standing behind Che is some interesting-looking guy, and Mujin asks if that's his lackey. This dude is giving off pure evil vibes, and it turns out he's the infamous Black Crow from the social sect. Black Crow calls Mujin out for eyeing their cash. And even though he was warned to stay away from the social sect here, Mujin is staring one of them down. Mujin just tells the guy to shut it if he wants to keep breathing. So Black Crow totally loses it and lunges at Mujin, looking like he's about to rip him to shreds, which freaks Sok out. But Mujin's just standing there completely unbothered because he's dead set on wrecking anyone who messes with him. Then Mujin just flicks a chopstick at Black Crow, and it's got so much force it like goes straight through his hand. That's the moment Black Crow realizes, oh snap, this kid is not some random scrub and he better get serious like right now. Mujin straight up tells Black Crow he doesn't want props from a lowlife like him. Of course, this just makes Black Crow even more ticked off, and he charges at Mujin again, totally seeing red. This time, Mujin's like, all right, bet, and runs to meet him, but then poof, he just vanishes into thin air. Next thing you know, he's right behind him, leaving Black Crow totally shook. Black Crow starts swinging wildly at Mujin, but Mujin's dodging everything like it's nothing, totally making it obvious he's just playing with him. Black Crow is bugging out like, how is this kid dodging all my moves? That's when Mujin decides to add one more hole to Black Crow's collection. Mujin shoves the chopstick right into his left eye, and the dude lets out a scream so gnarly it spooks everyone watching. Black Crow drops to his knees, calling Mujin every name in the book, yelling that the social sect is gonna come for him for messing with one of their own. Mujin's just like, oh really, let's see what your little club can do, and then just kicks Black Crow square in the head while telling him to go ahead and call his crew cause he's ready for them. But Mujin makes it super clear that before they even show up, Black Crow isn't walking out of this room. And just like that, Black Crow starts begging for his life, saying he'll give Mujin whatever he wants, just please don't unalive him. Mujin's actually surprised this guy wants to live so bad, but hey, he mentioned money. So Mujin decides not to send him to the great beyond just yet. Black Crow claims all his cash is back in Chong, but swears he'll go get it. Mujin's down for the deal, but he makes it crystal clear that the guy's a goner if he doesn't come back with the goods. Totally terrified, the dude scrambles out of there, promising to be back ASAP. After he's done with Black Crow, Mujin turns his attention to Che, who's literally wetting his pants in fear and tells him it's time to pay up. Che instantly drops to his knees, begging for his life and promising to give him everything he owns. Mujin just laughs, telling Che he's got nothing to offer, cause all his stuff basically belongs to him now. Che is super confused by this, so Mujin tells him to add up all the profits he scammed from regular people, plus all the lives he wrecked by playing the martial clans, and see how that stacks up. With tears streaming down his face, Che says he'll give Mujin all of it. But that just ticks Mujin off more, and he basically pops Che's head, reminding him, "You can't give me what's already mine." Everyone watching is frozen in fear, and then Mujin looks right at them and asks who's next in line. Some guy named Ma quickly steps forward, says he's the vice sect leader, and immediately hits the floor, begging for his life. He swears to Mujin he'll live a clean life if he just gets another chance, and he sounded for real, so Mujin decided to let him slide. Then Mujin asks Ma how much Che's stuff is worth, and Ma starts listing it off, beginning with his house. He says it all adds up to 4,000 gold, and Bangho's assets are worth about 10,000 gold. Plus there's a 500 gold tribute from the Soul Sect, so like the grand total is over 20,000 gold, and Mujin's like, yeah, I'll take all of that. Ma tells him he'll get everything together and bring it right over. Mujin is pretty stoked to hear that, cause he wants this handled like yesterday. As soon as Ma leaves, Mujin gives the other sect officers a death glare and tells them it's time to start bargaining for their lives. They're all completely stunned, and he reminds them that Ma was the only one who got a free pass. Panic mode on. They all start freaking out and begging to be spared. A little while later, Mujin rolls up to his house with a bunch of boxes overflowing with treasure and cash, leaving Du's jaw on the floor. He tells Du that every single box is holding like 400 gold. Du tries to warn Mujin that the Bango sect has the Soul Sect backing them up. But the real issue isn't even the Soul Sect, it's who they're teamed up with, and it's this super intimidating dude named Huang. Du also mentions the sect has the Black Crow and the Red Crow on their side. The second he hears Black Crow, Mujin just tells Du that he's already taken care of that guy. Du is totally floored. Mujin tells him not to even put him in the same league as him or Huang, cause anyone who comes after the clan is gonna end up taking a dirt nap. After dropping that bomb, he tells Du to hook him up with some beef, and to make sure his siblings eat good when they get back. As Mujin walks away, Du is just mind blown that he already put the fear of God into Black Crow, a guy who's known for being a total menace everywhere. Du's basically realizing that this Mujin is a completely different person. Meanwhile, Choyan has hired a hit squad to take out everyone Mujin cares about, but she tells them to bring one of the kids back alive. Okay, so backstory time. Back in the day, the Flame Hua clan was a huge deal, and this legendary guy known as the Flame Emperor was like a total rock star. All the other martial artists looked up to him. He even got shoutouts from the super famous Tang clan of Sichuan. In just one generation, the Flame Hua clan became a martial clan that you absolutely did not mess with. Even the top-tier fighters thought twice before starting something with the Flame Hua clan. Because of all that, there was a time when the people of Xicheng would go wild, cheering like crazy whenever the clan members walked down the street. But then after the Flame Emperor passed away, the next guy in charge turned out to be a total loser. And because of that, so the Flame Hua clan started going downhill for real. All their loyal crew just like bounced one by one. And the rep of the Emperor who used to run everything got super muddled, you know. Some people remembered him, others totally forgot. But everyone agreed on one thing: the dude was a legend. So when Mujin walks in with this insane aura, the old-timers start seeing the old Emperor in him. Then out of nowhere, some beat-up warriors show up and tell Du they got jumped by assassins and that Elder Joe and his squad are the only ones left holding them off. The second Du hears this, he freaks, realizing the two kids are in major trouble. He tells the warriors to get Mujin ASAP while he bolts ahead. Meanwhile, in the forest, Joe is making a last stand against the assassins, cause his whole crew is down. But even with the odds stacked against him, he's not backing down. Ready with all he's got to protect the kids. Right when it looks like he's about to get wrecked, Du slides in just in time to help out. This totally ticks off the assassins, since they were this close to finishing their mission. The head assassin starts screaming at his goons to just take them both out, and a whole new crazy fight kicks off. Du actually holds his own for a minute, trading hits with the assassins. But being old is catching up to him, and the assassins start getting the advantage. Next thing he knows, he's got a nasty cut on his shoulder that sends him stumbling back. One of the assassins decides it's go time, and yells at his buddies to just off one of the kids. He shoves Du back, trying to keep him busy, but Du is not having it. A second later, Du gets sliced up like really bad, and lets out a huge scream of pain. Du hits the dirt, totally unable to protect himself or the kids anymore. With Du out of the picture, the assassins turn to the kids, wondering which one of them is gonna get it and which one gets to live. Even though Dojin is basically helpless, he still stands up to protect his sister. So the assassins are like, okay, you're the one who's gotta go. Right as they're about to slice Dojin up, Mujin's voice booms through the forest telling them to freeze. He looks absolutely terrifying sprinting at them at like super speed. But the assassins aren't even phased because everyone knew Mujin is a total loser. The leader just tells his guys to waste Mujin since he decided to be a hero. So one of the assassins charges at Mujin, but Mujin makes him the first example of his rage. He just shatters the guy's sword like it's glass, then drops a vertical strike that literally splits the dude in two. He doesn't even pause, just blows past the body and goes for the rest of them. The second they see how insane he is, the leader yells for everyone to team up and take Mujin down now. The whole squad swarms him, but before they can even touch him, Mujin unleashes the Peerless Nine Swords' fifth form, the Army Slayer, and just carves through all of them like they're paper. One dude tries to sneak attack Mujin, but he dodges it easy peasy before sending the guy's head flying. That's when it finally hits the last assassin that they're totally fighting a monster. Before the guy can even blink, his right arm is gone, and he's screaming his head off. Mujin just tells him not to move a muscle if he wants to stay alive. Mujin turns and sees Joe helping Do get up, while Dojun is covering his sister's eyes so she doesn't see the absolute mess he just made. Dojun's telling his sister that everything's cool now because Mujin showed up and wrecked all the bad guys. Mujin walks over to the kids and asks if they're alright. Dojun tells him that they're all good, and Mujin's like, "You guys must have been so scared." But Dojun's like, "Nah, I'm not scared," flexing that he's the son of a martial arts master. Mujin's relieved and gives the kid a pat on the head for being so brave. Then he tells Elder Joe to get the injured warriors and his siblings back to the house. As soon as they're gone, Mujin turns his focus back to the last assassin standing and tells him not to even think about complaining about his missing arm. Then Mujin asks if the Changhua merchant group sent him. The guy kinda hesitates and Mujin says he might let him live if he tells the truth. The assassin's ears perk up at that, and he spills everything that Chun hired them through the Death Forest crew. After telling Mujin what he knows, he's like, "So, you're gonna let me go, right?" Mujin just tells him to run back to Chun and let her know he totally annihilated the squad she sent for his siblings, and that she's next on his list. Later, everyone is just staring at Mujin as he walks down the street, literally dripping in blood. All the people who used to look down on him wouldn't dare try it now, because they definitely don't want to be his next target. Everyone's wondering if the prodigy they all knew as a kid is like for real back. After soaking up all the attention on the street, Mujin finally heads home. Masok runs up to greet him, but Mujin just shoves his head out of the way. He asks Masok if the injured guys are all in the med bay, and he says yeah. Masok adds that Dojun and his sister are chilling in their rooms getting their energy back. Mujin's glad to hear it and tells Masok to get a bath ready. A little later, Mujin is chilling in the awesome bath Masok drew for him. While he's soaking, all he can think about are his siblings and how he's got to protect them, to shield them from all the messed up stuff in the world. Even though they're kids from a martial clan, Mujin just feels like it's wrong for them to see that kind of darkness so young. But at the same time, he's kind of worried he's just dumping his own past fears onto them. The next day at the medicine hall, Mujin rolls up on Elder Joe to ask about the Red Flame art manual. Joe totally freaks when he hears this, and Mujin's like, "Whoa, why so jumpy?" Joe asks him why he's even looking for the manual, and Mujin instantly gets it. Joe thinks he's about to relapse and go on another rampage. Joe quickly denies it like, "No, that's not it." But Mujin basically tells him he's planning to train solo since Joe's out of the game for now. Mujin can also totally see the doubt in Joe's eyes. But Joe still insists that's not it. Mujin then promises Joe he has nothing to worry about because he is not going to lose it. Finally seeing that Mujin is being for real, Joe hands over the manual. But the second Mujin is gone, Joe spills his worries to Do, asking him if he just made a huge mistake by giving Mujin the manual. Do tells him to chill because Mujin has been showing off some seriously sick sword skills lately. Do says Mujin was the whole reason they even survived that assassination attempt. Do also throws in that Mujin seems to be totally cured, and he's pretty sure the Taoist's treatment is working. Joe agrees that the treatment is legit, but he's also wondering if it's somehow leveling up his martial arts skills too. Do agrees that Mujin's sudden glow-up is something else, and he bets that he had some kind of major life-changing encounter, because that's the only thing that explains it. Joe is stoked with how things are looking up, and he thinks the clan's epic fail streak is finally over. Over at the training grounds, Mujin gets his siblings together to start their training. Mujin breaks down the whole training vibe for them, telling them the goal is to move super smoothly like water. He mentions it's a core movement technique that he actually made up himself based on like a ton of real fights. The two are super impressed when they hear this, but then Soyeon cuts in all shocked since Elder Joe claimed Mujin had zero real combat experience. Dojun can't believe his sister just put him on blast like that. Mujin just suggests they skip the boring lectures, and he tells the two to come at him with the basic fist technique they've learned. They get into their stances and rush Mujin at the same time. But their movements are not gonna lie a total disappointment. The whole display from the two made him question if they were even really from a martial clan. He realizes they don't even have the basic footwork down. So annoyed by the weak performance they're putting on, he tells them to just stop. He says they're done for the day cause his head is killing him. The two are confused. Like, how can he have a headache when they didn't even touch him? So Mujin lies, saying they're actually way more skilled than he thought. He tells them that for now, all they need to do is get their bodies stronger before they can learn any next level techniques. After his siblings leave, Mujin realizes he's got a massive job ahead of him, and it is not going to be easy. It makes him think his own master must have had a heck of a time training him too. But whatever Mujin is ready to bring the clan back to its former glory, since he's the one who's to blame for everything. On top of that, Mujin plans to finally beat the one person he couldn't take down in his past life. Mujin then grabs his sword and starts his own training session, and he can tell right away that the sword feels crazy light in his hand. He also figures out that his speed is getting faster with every single rep of his sword forms. A few days later, Du and Joe are finally back to work. Masak tells him they handled everything he asked, giving them props for a job well done. But Masak was still pushing for more. Mujin angrily snaps back, reminding him what would have happened if he'd shown up a minute later. Mujin then lays down the law for the elders, telling them they'll get themselves taken out if they ever pull a dumb stunt like that again. The two get the message, bowing to Mujin and apologizing for being so clueless. A few moments later, that Taoist who treated Mujin Young-soo shows up. Mujin has no idea who this guy is, and he's already dissed him before Masak explains that he's the Taoist who treated him. Masak tries to apologize to the old man, saying Mujin hasn't fully recovered, which is why he's acting so weird. But Mujin shuts him down for talking trash about him. Mujin then decides to just play along, telling the old man he's sorry for not recognizing him. Mujin tells the guy to come with him since he's probably wiped from his long trip. A few days before, Masak had given Mujin the lowdown on the Taoist priest, saying he inherited the Taoist lineage of the Wang sect. Masak claimed Mujin was healed because of the priest's positive energy healing, and he let it slip that the chief steward paid a fortune to get the Taoist to come. So now in the present, Mujin is actually glad he's finally meeting the man, which is why he's inviting him inside. Mujin then asks him straight up if it's true that he's from the Wang sect's Taoist lineage, and Young-soo confirms it, acting all cool about it. He claims he's the one and only Taoist to inherit the real essence of the Wang sect's true lineage. The moment Mujin hears this, he stomps his foot and asks him dead serious if he's for real the Wang White Immortal, because he'd never heard about any successor of the Wang's Taoist lineage still being alive. Is trying to play dumb, but Mujin's like, "You've got a hot minute to fess up before I lose my patience." The so-called Taoist keeps up the act, asking if Mujin's seriously doubting the guy who supposedly healed him. But Mujin isn't having it, and just whips out his massive sword. He tells Young-soo that if he's a real Taoist, he should totally be able to dodge this. Mujin swings his sword and comes this close to splitting the old dude in two, leaving a sick crater in the floor. Ma and the elders totally freak out, thinking he's completely lost his mind. Mujin tells the three of them to zip it and grab him some water, cause he wants to show them something hilarious. The second the water gets there, Mujin just douses Young-soo. Young-soo is still playing the victim like, "Is this how your clan repays kindness?" Mujin just ignores him, yanks his long beard, and surprised the whole thing rips right off. The elders and Meso are shook. Even Young-soo knows he's busted now that they've seen his fake beard. Mujin starts clowning him, saying he did a pretty decent job gluing it on though. Next thing you know, Young-soo is getting grilled by Mujin and his crew. Mick asks Mujin what the plan is for this guy, and Mujin's like, oh, he's not going anywhere. He says he might just take him apart piece by piece and maybe even make sure his family line ends with him. Young-soo totally loses it and starts begging Mujin to spare him. Mujin just assures him that he has no intention of actually ending him, cause then how would he get his money back? Mujin says he just wants to take him apart, but Young-soo is practically crying, pleading with Mujin to leave him in one piece. Young-soo swears he'll give back every cent he scammed. Mujin agrees, but tells him there's gonna be a hefty fee for the not taking you apart and wrecking your future service. Terrified of being dismembered, Young-soo tells Mujin he'll pay literally anything to stay in one piece. So Mujin turns to Do and asks how much the scammer got from him, and Do admits he coughed up 50 gold Naiyang. When Mujin hears that, he just shakes his head, totally disappointed that Do was naive enough to fall for it. Do tries to defend himself, saying he heard Young-soo was some legendary healer. Mujin then gets in Young-soo's face, telling him step 1 is paying back that 50 gold. Young-soo's all, yeah, totally, I'll pay it back, but claims the cash is at his place in Jinyang. Without missing a beat, Mujin's like, cool, lead the way to Jinyang, which is like a 4-hour trip. Do and Joe ask if they should tag along, but Mujin tells them it's not necessary. He points out they're still healing up and tells them to just stay put and make sure nothing else goes down. As he and Young-soo head out, Du can tell Joe is worried and tells him to just trust their guy on this cause he's on a whole other level now. A little while later, they get to Young-soo's ride, and Mujin is floored when he sees how ridiculously fancy this dude's carriage is. It's pretty obvious his whole scamming gig is paying off big time. Mujin's even more shocked when he gets inside and sees how decked out the interior is. The inside is all padded with cotton and has leather trim. Young-soo explains it's custom because he travels a ton and needs his comfort. Mujin just smirks, saying Young-soo has a crazy work ethic for a con artist, and asks why he doesn't just get a real job since he's clearly a pro. Young-soo just bows his head, promising Mujin he's going legit from now on. Mujin just kicks back and makes himself comfortable, telling the old guy he's gonna catch some Z's. He's like, wake me up when we get there. Young-soo just nods and agrees. He promises Mujin he'll wake him up the second they arrive. But on the inside, Young-soo is totally plotting against him and can't wait to show him what happens when you mess with him. So the carriage takes off, and after a few hours, they end up in this super quiet, sketchy part of the woods. Young-soo hops out of the carriage to meet up with some guy who looks like a total bandit. He tells his buddy that Mujin is passed out cold inside, He's like, drag him out and teach him a lesson he won't forget. The big dude seems pretty stoked to do it because who in their right mind messes with a Taoist's hustle? So the big guy stomps into the carriage and throws a massive punch right at Mujin. But just as it's about to connect, Mujin whips around and blocks the punch with his sword. He gives this wicked grin and asks, "Are we there yet?" Mujin looks totally grossed out by the dude and just launches him out of the carriage, shocking Yong-Soo. The bandit feels the shockwave from Mujin's hit go through his entire body and realizes he needs to get serious. Turns out the rumors about Mujin being a beast were true. Mujin casually steps out of the carriage and asks Yong-Soo, "So when did our destination change to the middle of nowhere?" It finally clicks for Mujin that he's the Taoist's real target. He thought the guy was just a petty scammer, but now he sees he's got bigger, sketchier plans. Mujin's not even mad though, cause honestly he was kinda hoping for a fight. Mujin lets out this insane aura telling the big dude, "All right, let's see what you've got." The bandit can totally feel the immense pressure rolling off Mujin and yells for the rest of his crew to come out so they can try to jump him together. 3 more huge guys pop out of nowhere, and it turns out they're the infamous Zhongxiang's 4 demons. The second Mujin gets a good look at them. He can totally tell they're using some dark demonic power, but he keeps it on the down low. Mujin comments on their different weapons and tells them he'd like to see what they've really got. Not wasting another second, Mujin zips over to the team leader and shoves him away from his crew. He immediately puts the guy on the defensive as he just keeps unleashing a storm of attacks on him. The rest of the squad realizes Mujin is only targeting their boy, and they all move in to help. Even the dude getting pummeled is feeling how brutal Mujin's hits are. He literally thinks it feels like getting hit by a heavy mace. He loses his footing, and Mujin just kicks him right in the face, totally wrecking his mouth. Right then, the rest of the crew catches up and the closest one tries to take Mujin's head off with his axe, but Mujin dodges it like it's nothing and slams a massive elbow into his stomach, making the guy scream in pure agony. The other 2 try to trap Mujin with a pincer move, but he just sidesteps, making them both overextend like crazy. This gives Mujin the perfect opening to just deck one of them and send him straight to the ground. Mujin then turns to the last guy who tries to block with his sword, but it just shatters into a million pieces. Mujin's blade nearly slices the dude in half, but he pulls back at the very last second. The guy's whole life flashes before his eyes, and while he's still shaking, Mujin sends him flying with a huge kick to the chest. And just like that, Mujin has taken all 4 of them down, leaving them on their knees, struggling just to breathe. During the fight, he totally confirmed they're using demonic arts. But that just makes him wonder, how in the world are there demonic arts in the Central Plains? Mujin kinda sees them as his juniors, and he doesn't actually want to take them out. He's thinking about what to do when the leader of the group screams out that they totally surrender, begging Mujin to let them live. And this is the exact moment Yong-Soo realizes he is so screwed because Mujin just easily beat Zhongshan's 4 demons. The leader of the crew admits they figured out Mujin was on a whole other level after just the first few moves. Mujin then asks him why they kept coming at him if they already knew that. Mujin tells the guys he'll spare them, but he's going to have to destroy their energy cores and sever their meridians. The second they hear this, the team leader drops to his knees, begging Mujin not to ruin their lives, as martial artists claiming they were just following orders. Mujin just tells the guy to stop whining because they're way too old for that. Mujin then demands to know who their teacher was. The dude acts all confused at first until Mujin makes it clear he wants to know about his master. Mujin says he can obviously see they're using demonic energy even if it's kinda pathetic. Mujin is really curious who taught them these dark arts, and the team leader reveals they don't even know his name. Mujin is so ticked off when he hears this because he can't believe they're a bunch of clueless students who don't even know their own master's name. The leader then confesses their master never told them his name, and also warned them not to look for his other students. Mujin shoots back that they should have just kept their heads down and learned some lame martial arts instead of becoming a bunch of bandits. The team leader quickly corrects him, saying that they're not thieves. He explains they were just helping their brother out with his side hustle. Mujin is completely surprised by this and scolds them for helping the guy even though they know what Yong-Soo's business is really about. That's when the leader reveals they honestly believed he was in the business of saving people. Mujin decides to let them go and tells them to stop being Yong-Soo's lackeys. He threatens that he'll finish them for good if he ever catches them doing sketchy stuff again. The team leader thanks Mujin for his mercy, and then Mujin turns to Yong-Soo, telling him that the bill he's about to pay just got a whole lot bigger. In fact, he's gonna pay for messing with his mental health. And this just leaves Yong-Soo looking absolutely horrified. After the carriage leaves, the 4 brothers have this sudden realization that Mujin is totally worthy of being their master. The 4 of them then chase down the carriage and get it to stop. Mujin is wondering why the heck the carriage stopped until he steps out and finds the 4 of them bowing to him and calling him boss. The 4 tell him they're pledging their loyalty and swear they'll serve him until they die. They're literally begging Mujin to take them in, but Mujin just thinks the beatdown he gave them messed with their heads. He tries to just brush them off, but the 4 of them just yell even louder, demanding that he take care of them, and revealing that they're actually still pretty young. This is a total shock to Mujin, who thought the 4 were some old dudes, since their faces were, well, not the best. Anyway guys, that's a wrap for this video. If you liked it, drop a next part in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe, smash that notification bell, and give the video a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.